You know, the funny thing is even though it was Peter Strzok in the hot seat, what struck me was that there was actually two more powerful players in that room, both working to protect Peter Strzok from having to answer any questions. One was the FBI, which, as you just heard in that clip, there was a lawyer who sat behind him the entire time, directed him not to answer anything that had to do with the Russia investigation. So this is the FBI continuing to obstruct congressional oversight. And the other were Democrats with a whole new strategy for shutting down oversight, which was to interrupt call points of order. It was crazy.
That is an actual strategy, and I know that this happens because they do this when it gets really tough. They get in there beforehand and they say, when something gets really to the heart of what the Republicans are getting at, and it's starting to look really dicey for Peter Strzok, we're going to start screaming, calling for order, saying all kinds of ridiculous things and causing mayhem in order to distract and prevent punches from being landed. But you mentioned before about these lawyers that are sitting in the background. You can't, he was asked, you know, are you biased? Are you biased? He says, I'm not biased. And then the Republicans say, okay, prove that you're not biased. And they ask a question about the investigation, and he's told, I can't answer a question about my investigation. So you never get to the bottom of anything.
Well, and that gag order was obviously bogus from the start because, listen, by the end of this, that FBI lawyer, and probably Christopher Wray was watching this back at headquarters, could tell that the Republicans were at the end of their rope and about to lose it. And so they actually did allow Strzok to answer some questions. Why couldn't have that happened from the start? What other areas is it perfectly fine for him to be able to talk about? But they just don't want Congress to have any details about this investigation.
No, they're obviously hiding something because they're withholding documents, and they've basically put a gag order on Strzok for anything having to do with the investigation. Now, personally, I was struck by Strzok's demeanor. I thought he was arrogant. I thought he didn't show a lot of respect. And I thought he didn't think he needed to be bothered by these people. He's going all over the internet viral by some of these ridiculous and bizarre expressions that he made. How do you think he conducted himself in terms of temperament and optics during the hearing?
It's hard to see how the average American, how he did himself any favors. Look, this is a guy who has embarrassed and humiliated the FBI with the text messages he sent out. And yet he showed no humility, no regret, no contrition for that. He was not just, it came across as somewhat arrogant, but he was disrespectful to the members of Congress who had the temerity to question him about those. He actually lectured Congress at some point on when they actually had the right to even ask questions about an investigation. And Bob Goodlatte, the head of the Judiciary Committee, had to remind him, he goes, in case you've forgotten, we, Congress, created the FBI. And you don't get to tell us
thinks he's got a superhero cape on. He's this big crusader to protect America. Meanwhile, he hates half America because he said, oh, I can smell the Trump support in Southern Virginia. Was called out about that, too. Didn't have a great answer there. They actually made Peter Strzok read some of the texts, which was pretty funny. Let's watch this.
OMG, he's an idiot.